Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. I am Christy Ruffino, the host of the show, and I'm really excited for you to meet our guest today. He is the one and only Jay Fiset. I had the pleasure of meeting him, oh my gosh, many years ago. I was a part of his Mastermind to Millions community, and I learned a lot about masterminds and just what it takes to be able to kind of build community or build businesses with the power of collaboration. And that was a really great experience for me. He also came to Chicago and spoke to our community or to an event that we had here locally. And that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of years ago.
It was.
Yes.
And you did not come in the middle of winter, which that is definitely not a time that anybody wants to come to Chicago. So you planned it right, or I planned it right. I'm not sure how that went. So I'm going to give you a brief bio of Jay in a moment, but I just want to welcome you, Jay. I'm really excited to have you today.
Christy, I really appreciate being here. It is awesome. And you know what? I'm a Canadian. The Chicago winters don't scare me off. It's we grew up that way. It's all good, but it was a nice trip and I appreciate that. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So if you are listening today, have you ever thought about how you can build your business more successfully? And with the power of joint ventures, you can do exactly that. So Jay Fiset is an expert in this arena. He is a best-selling author, and a student of human nature, avid outdoorsman, which of course you have to be in Canada. And he speaks fluent smartass. Oh no, I didn't see that. You're an outdoorsman at 5-star hotels. Yes. Yes. I get it now. So he has 2 sons and a loving wife. I know, I've met her, and he loves his toys, but he still fantasizes about his life with his wife, even after 25 years. So welcome, Jay. Let's go ahead and get on with this, because I know you are passionate about this. You know how we can, of course, we can achieve a lot of great things on our own, but we can do it faster and more successfully when we unite with other like-minded people. And that is the premise of your JVology community. So share your story. How did you get into this arena?
Well, it is the premise of JVology, and it's also my lived experience. So, you know, if we start sort of at the beginning, one of my first core business was something called Personal Best Seminars, where we did intense personal transformation events that were, 3 days, 5 days, 10 weeks. Like we did an inordinate amount in that domain. And in that process, it was a closed system, meaning that we never had any sponsors. We never had any guest speakers. We never brought anyone in from outside. If you were on our stage, you went through a facilitator development program, a mentorship program, a solo program that probably took you 3 to 5 years. So in that closed system, I worked like a complete freaking madman for 15 years before we broke 7 figures in annual sales. And it's really in that world, it's just what it took. And, fast forward through the launch of the Mastermind to Millions brand, through doing joint ventures to bring awareness to the topic and a live event, I did $1 million in sales in 3 days. And what I always say to people is like, so just to be clear about this, when I say work like a madman, I'm talking like 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, which people go, it's like, oh, you're exaggerating. It's like, no, I'm not. We worked in the business for 8 hours. We renovated a 1910 brick warehouse during that process. And then we actually taught the courses and all those things. So I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So, I always say to people, it's like, so 15 years of 12 hours a day or 3 days. 15 years of 12 hours a day or 3 days, which would you prefer? And it just really elucidates the power of joint ventures. when we can really bring together collaboration, the desire to serve and support our clients and solve their problems in a more meaningful and powerful manner, and working with people that we know, like, trust, love, want to support. And that is really the core of my business, which is currently JVology. Well, when I say currently, I have a multitude of businesses, but this business is JVology, the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit. And it just strikes to the core of this fundamental truth is that most entrepreneurs, number one, fail. If we just look at the statistics, if they don't fail, they struggle. And if they struggle, their life, their freedom, all those sorts of things is significantly less than it could or should be. And JVology wants to help solve that. So that's kind of the nutshell.
Great. Yeah, I totally get it. Most of the audience, or some of the audience, knows that I started a women's networking organization 18 years ago, and it is about collaboration. And I used to have collaborative velocity events. So
I like that.
I totally get the whole power of collaboration. And yes, most entrepreneurs, or a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think a lot of women, they just go struggle on their own, and they think they've got to figure it out by themselves, and they just work harder. They're going to make it happen. But we don't want to work harder. We want to work smarter, and we want to align ourselves with other people that can help us. And I know.
Can I ask a question about that? Because
yeah.
I have an assumption that at least in Canada is backed up by statistics, which is that women in general actually collaborate more and are more open to being supported in business, and therefore, at least in Canada, the success rate of a woman starting a business is significantly higher than the success rate of a man starting a business, at least by Stats Canada. Does that hold true in the U.S. as well?
Oh, absolutely. I totally believe that. And I know from my personal experience, even though I kind of, in business setting, I usually am surrounded by women, but I know from my experience, men are even worse. But I do know a lot of women. We just kind of put our heads down and we do it. And yes, we will ask for help more so than men, but we do more than we should alone. And I think there's a lot about competition, or we don't want to impose on others, but I know I love helping other people. So if I get out of my own way and allow other people to help me, they feel kind of satisfied to be able to do that and serve me. So yes,
Yeah, I
I
love
do
that.
agree with you about this, the statistics for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you are, I know, rocking and rolling with the JVology. You have events. You have so many great resources on your website, and you offer so many different avenues to support people who want to either jump into this head first, or just kind of like put their little toe in. I know you just had a great challenge last week, which I know I did. I met a lot of great people. And you're actually creating an app or something like that. And I know, I don't think we plan to talk about this, but you want to give our audience a little peek about what that is.
Absolutely. And I think I can help sort of put chapter titles to some of those things. So when it comes to this conversation around joint ventures, which is really, in its simplest form, it is collaborating with other entrepreneurs and business owners to solve our clients' problems better, and negotiating being rewarded and paid for that in some way, shape, or form. So we do that through coaching, we do that through live events, we do that through consulting, we do that through community. All of those things interweave so that we do really three pieces. And this is particularly what happens at our JVology Live, where we sort of wrap it into a bow and say, this is how this goes, is that this is what you need to do to set up your business to take advantage of joint ventures. Now, what is fine, but now you got to get to this is how you actually do it, where we quite literally hold your hand and point you in the direction and say, this is how you do it. Go do this, say these words in this way, go to town. And then perhaps the most important part of what we do with our community is we give you the who to do it with. And when you put those three pieces together, you transform people's businesses, which is pretty cool. Now, we've been doing this formally at JVology since 2017, informally about 4 years earlier than that, in terms of I started my own joint venture community, which was really the driver around our Mastermind to Millions brand. And the long and the short of it is this, is that there's a vetting, filtering, matching process, which I'm going to teach a little bit about when a little later in the show here, that helps identify who are the right partners, who are not necessarily the right partners. I sometimes used to tease people. It's like, well, in the JV space, there's a lot of kissing of frogs. You got to kiss the frog, find if it's going to turn into a prince or a princess, but there's a lot of kissing of frogs. So what we've done is we've designed a process that we call the client journey model, or the upstream downstream model, that filters, vets, qualifies, and builds the perfect partnerships. So what we've been up to is we are building a platform. That platform is driven by artificial intelligence that helps to vet, filter, sort, and collect the perfect partners for you. So the right partner at the right time for the right reason. And we believe that when the AI algorithm is done well, is that this particular platform is going to put a dent in the entrepreneurial universe. It's going to change how entrepreneurs even remotely think, number one, about joint ventures, but number two, in the broader sense, about collaboration and creation as entrepreneurs. And we are incredibly excited about this. This has been, COVID slowed us down a little bit. We sort of said, we're going to wait and see what happens here a little bit. But we are full on and in. Our offering memorandum is done. We're beginning to raise the capital. The coders are, raring to go. And it's going to be exciting. Like, I got to tell you, it's difficult to do anything else with all of those things going on.
I get it. Yeah, everybody kind of had to put a little pause button during what was going on in COVID. And I'm glad things are kind of turning around now. So that's great. So you mentioned upstream, downstream, and that is not about fishing, and it's not about looking for frogs. But let's go ahead and take a break, because I know we want to come back and really dive into that so everybody understands really how these terms, or the mindset around creating the structure, will really kind of just maybe like make some shifts in people's mind about how they pursue their business ventures. So hang on a moment. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Overcoming Mediocrity Project. Are you ready to share your story in a life-changing book with other success-driven women? Then what if you could use that book to get speaking gigs, podcast interviews, and possibly a new client or two? Wouldn't that be great? Well, watch out, chicken soup. Here comes Overcoming Mediocrity. Our proven system can transform your struggle story into a powerful signature message, and then as one chapter in an Amazon best-selling book. Our process is simple and economical, and it will bring a lot of eyeballs on you, your business, and your big message to the world. We welcome you to apply to join our project. Just visit us at overcomingmediocrity.org and click on the apply button at the top of the page. We'll see you soon. All right, my friends, welcome back to today's show. And we are going to really dive right into this upstream, downstream concept. And I know Jay has a really great way to kind of share with our audience how they can kind of get started on this JV journey. So take it away, Jay.
All right. Well, let's start the beginning, shall we?
Yes, the beginning is always good.
Exactly. So here's the metaphor. What I'd like people to consider as they go through this is that the vast majority of us throw our hat into the world of entrepreneurship because there's a magic trick we have. We've got this capacity to solve this problem. And it's usually a problem that we have solved for ourselves. It's usually something that's near and dear to our heart. It's usually something that we do stunningly well. But doing something stunningly well is nowhere near enough to have a successful business. But because we're pretty good at this, what occurs is that we then begin to look for the clients, or to look for the people that have the problem that we solve. Now, the best way I can describe this is if I'm a Saskatchewan farm kid, so hopefully this hangs out here for you a little bit, is that it's a little bit like a horse that has a harness on and has the covers over their eyes so that they don't see anything to distract them. And most entrepreneurs literally have this little tunnel vision, and it's like, hey, do you have the problem I solved? Do you have the problem I solved? What about you? Do you have the problem I solved? And it's like, aha, you have the problem I solved, except you don't think you have that problem. Damn, who else has the problem I solved? And we have these blinders on, just looking, hoping to find that one person at a time that has the problem we solved, that we can have a conversation with and say, hey, I can fix that for you. And hopefully, some say yes, some say no. Now, if we are diligent, and if we have some business processes, and if we're, the stars are aligned, we can usually make enough money for us to survive. Yahoo. Generally speaking, though, if we look at statistics, not enough to thrive. The statistics about small business, well, actually business, period, in North America, it's a primary US study, but I think it applies in Canada, so I'm rounding up just to be clear, is that 2/3 of all businesses don't break $100,000 in annual sales. Now, when we think about that, just for a moment or two, when you consider all of the additional things that you have to take on to run your own business, $100,000 is not really enough.
No,
Well,
it's
hell,
not.
less than $100,000 is not really enough. You've got accountants, you've got taxes, you've got advertising, you've got delivery, you've got staff, you've got support, you've got, like, I mean, that's challenging. Let's be clear. So, what I want everyone to consider is, what if instead of, with blinders on, looking for the partner or looking for the person that has the problem, what if we took the blinders off and took like 3 huge steps backwards? So instead of looking for the person with the problem at the time, we started looking at what we call our ideal client's journey. Now, I want to be very clear about this, because lots of times people think ideal client's journey means the journey that our clients have with us when they say yes to a product, service, or experience. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our ideal client's life journey. And here's the honest to goodness truth, gang, is that if you have a particular problem that you solve, what you can do with incredible accuracy, is you can begin to look at your ideal client's life journey and begin to understand that there's a whole series of events, there's a whole series of choices, there's a whole series of circumstances, there's a whole series of life stages, there's a whole series of decisions, there's a whole series of education, there's a whole series of, you insert the blanks, please hear this, that precede them having the problem that you solve. Okay, so just right this second, while we're having this conversation, by the way, depending on your particular industry, is that there are 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million people who at this moment are either discovering they have the problem that you solve, being diagnosed that they have the problem that they solve, or making a decision that causes the problem that you solve. Now, in its simplest of terms, and by the way, I'm timing myself to make sure that I get this done in the time frame you asked, so I'm going to reset the timer.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay, so here's the thing. Instead of the blinders looking for the problem that we solve, what if we just went what we call upstream, and we started looking for what organizations, what people, what places, what things, what decisions, what life stages cause the problem that we solve? Okay, so I'm going to use just a super simple one, just because we happen to be in this circumstance. So, for example, if somebody moves, the process of moving causes a whole bunch of problems. You got to, number one, move the stuff you got. Number two, you got to get new stuff that fits the new location. You got to update your insurance. You've got to take care of your yard. You've got to get rid of the old property. You've got, like, all of those things are caused by the decision or the choice or the process of somebody saying, hey, I'm buying your house, or any of those pieces. Now, here's the idea that I want everyone to wrap their head and heart around, is that instead of looking for this one client, what if we went upstream and we went to the people, the organizations, the structures, the associations, the schools, the educational institutions, all those things, and we said, hey, I know that you either caused the problem that we solve, diagnose the problem that I solve, or reveal the problem that I solve. And if you were to do a better job for your client, instead of just letting them go off and find it on Google, why don't you just simply refer those clients to me? I will do my very best to take care of them, just like I would take care of my mom. And when they purchase something, I will happily reward you with, that, by the way, could be cash, that could be services in kind, that could be anything, but we reward them in some meaningful manner. And here's what happens when we do this well. We have a model we call the JV Top 20. When we do this well, and we have 10 great upstream partners, and these are 10 partners that cause, reveal, or diagnose the problem that we solve, that then send those folks, because they say, aha, you have this problem. You now need to move your stuff out of the house, or whatever the case may be. I can give you a whole bunch of examples. Or you now started a business and now you need to get more consistent leads. It's like, oh, you should probably come to JVology, because we can introduce you to, quite literally, 1,000 people who can send you leads. So when we go through this process, it's like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. And what occurs is this: we secure for entrepreneurs a steady stream of perfectly qualified leads for free. which means that we're no longer in the realm of sending money to Facebook and praying that somebody's going to respond. We're no longer trying to play the paid ads game. We're no longer worried about having to invest and put money on the line ahead of time. We actually build this thing called relationships, dedicated to solving our clients' problems better, and we pay based on performance. A person shows up and hires us, we are thrilled to send money to the folks that sent us. That's the upstream component of our ideal client. Now, here's the thing. There are some industries where it's easier to nail that down than others. But I've yet to be stumped, because here's the truth of the matter. Every single problem that gets solved, every solution spits out 4 to 7 new additional problems / opportunities. And this is what JVology does. Is number one, we teach people this model. We get them perfectly clear about articulating the problem that we solve. We get perfectly clear about people understanding where their ideal client's life journey is. And then we get to come together as entrepreneurs and say, hey, does your client have a similar life journey than mine? It's like, oh, well, they're going to need X. I could actually help you with that. Or it's like, hey, when I roll out my particular solution, so for example, JVology, somebody comes and says, yes, I would love to have a steady stream of perfectly qualified leads. That's fantastic. Now, to get my business set up for that, it's like, wait a second, I need a CRM that's going to track a affiliate link. I need a CRM that's going to be able to let me know which of my partners are performing best. It's like, well, yes, you do. So I will now refer you, and this is what we call downstream. So this is, I now have served my client. They now have some new problems that need to be solved. I will refer them downstream to places like ClickFunnels, Infusionsoft, WordPress, LastPass, a whole variety of pieces of software that help them run their business. And that is a way in which I can serve my client better. And it just makes their life easier, because here's the honest to goodness truth. And the question is always like, well, will this work for me? I don't know if it's going to happen in this industry. Here's just as simple as I can say this. When that happens is most people aren't perfectly clear about their ideal client's life journey. They have problems before they need you. They have problems after you've served them. If you can fill in those 2 blanks, you have a business that we can add literally a 0 to, meaning that if you made $10,000 last year, you can make $100,000 this year. If you made $100,000 this year, you can make $1 million next year. And that is not marketing hyperbole BS. Those are based on, number one, personal experiences, and number 2, people in our community who got what it means to scale. Okay, those are the big ideas.
Got it. Great. Love it. It's all about scaling.
Yes. And here's the thing. It takes, and just going back to this. So I sometimes think of it this way. I'll give one other metaphor about how this works and upstream, downstream. So just imagine most entrepreneurs get a single fishing rod with a single hook. They go off to the stream or the river and they throw the hook in the river. That's with their little blinders on, hoping that there's a fish or a person or a potential client that's going to nibble on that bait. And it's like, ta-da, I caught a fish. And they reel in. It's like, I got a client. Yay, this is not fantastic. But that takes a significant amount of time. And frankly, it only works while you're in the middle of fishing. Our model says this: instead of going down to the river to put one hook in the water and hold on to the rod until there's a nibble, why don't we do this? It's like, why don't we change our scale utterly and completely? Instead of that, why don't we go and build relationships with what we call ship captains? And ship captains, number one, have their own ship. They have their own crew. They have their own nets. They have their own fishing grounds. And we go and we say to the ship captain, it's like, look, we know you're doing great. And we know that you have got a process that works. But here's what we also know, is that the fish in your area where you're fishing, mainly, there's a lot of them that are sort of tired of the bait that you're using. They've sort of gotten wise to where you and how you put your nets out. And if you were willing, occasionally, what you should do is this: you should try my process and my bait. Just give it a shot. And there's a whole school of fish. There's a whole school of opportunity there that wants and needs something different. And here's what happens. I'll teach your crew how to use it. I'll give you all of the resources for free. And when you go out into your fishing grounds and you utilize my bait, you bring back the fish, and we will just share that on a very equitable basis. You don't need to do it all the time, but every once in a while, it's going to be wiser for you to use my bait than yours, because your fish need, or the area that you're fishing in, need some variety, and they have some other problems that you have not been dealing with. And it takes, by the way, the same amount of time to build a relationship, to set up that agreement with a ship's captain, that is going to bring, by the way, if you do that well, they don't do it once. They do it once every
Over
6
and
months.
over again. Yep.
Exactly. For decades. I have partners who have been with me quite literally for 25 plus years. And then what happens is that they don't bring you one client at a time. They bring you 10 clients, they bring you 15 clients, they bring you, whatever that happens to be, over and over and over again. So which makes more sense if we want to scale? Clearly, let's build some relationships with ship captains. And that's what we do at JVology Live. That's what we do in our challenges. That's what we do in our global lounge community. We just bring a bunch of ship captains together and say, hey, what problem do you solve and how can you serve and support one another?
I really love that analogy about fishing. And yes, who wants to go out and catch one fish when we can build a relationship with a captain that will bring us a batch of fishes? And then we have all these fishes, and now we need to have people downstream to be able to flow that business to and creates more opportunities for everybody. So that is just amazing. So let's talk about JVology Live, because the next one is coming up just a few weeks.
Yes, June 8th to 10th. And it is one of my favorite things in the entire universe, just because, we do a bunch of things, but here's really the crux of this is you'll discover how to structure and set up your business in such a way that joint ventures make sense. And what I mean by that is, number one, it solves a bunch of your lead acquisition and client acquisition issues. But number two, you have to be able to track, structure, entice, build relationships, make it worthwhile, all those sorts of things for your partners. So we go through that entire process. We lean heavily, and just to be clear about this, you do not need to be in digital marketing at all to use joint ventures.
No, not at all.
I have, I have a brother-in-law and sister-in-law. It's like the big strategy for them is a paper coupon that goes in every purchase. And that thing, by the way, knocks it the hell out of the park. Most people would die to get the traction that they get through a simple coupon. But just to be clear about this, we do lean fairly heavily on digital marketing simply because that's one of the greatest opportunities that exists in the universe today. And of course, with COVID and all the changes and pivots and all those sorts of things, lots of people are leaning into that. But we'll teach you how to use some of let's call it the appropriate technology for your business and for your scale. And then here's what we do. We teach you how to do a great joint venture invitation. And there's very little in the universe that's as powerful as a great JV invitation. By the way, I saw on a little sidebar to this makes me giggle. I saw and most of us, I mean, this is the thing about digital marketing, is like most of us are getting 17,000 direct messages from people we don't know and all the rest of it. So the phrase with this is like, nobody likes to be pitch slapped.
Love that. Oh my God.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
It's so appropriate these right now. Yes.
Yes. Anyway, so we craft what we call an invitation. And it is the difference, by the way, when you do it well, it's the difference between being pitch slapped by some dingbat who you don't know or care about, or getting a beautiful invitation in the mail to an exclusive party and an exclusive event that you were invited to. That's the distinction between us. And we, number one, teach you how to do that. And then in the weekend itself, you will make that invitation about 100 to 100 people.
Yes, that's what I love about JVology is it's just a really great way to learn the principles and then actually apply them.
Correct. And here's the thing, is that it's done in an environment where we are all working on peer-to-peer relationships, and people are open to saying, it's like, that didn't quite work because X, Y, and Z. So we begin to craft and hone and improve and all the rest of it. But here's the other thing about it. Those 100 folks are real potential partners. Now, they may or may not be in your upstream or downstream. That's part and parcel of what you have to learn. That's part and parcel of what we teach you to discover. That's part and parcel of doing our best to eliminate kissing frogs. But here's the truth of it, is that when they line up, you leave with partnerships. You leave with people on your podcast. You leave with people doing an email swap. You leave with people on doing a Facebook swap. You leave with people coming and talking to your crew, to your crowd and community. You leave with deals. And quite frankly, it's the best event on planet Earth for that purpose and for that process. So it's June 8th to 10th. We do approximately 4 of them a year, and the community just continues to grow and continues to stimulate and continues to evolve. And we have members from all over God's green earth. So if you are wanting to scale from the US to Canada, or the Canada to the US, we've got a strong European contingent that is really beginning to get some traction. Come join us and just invest 3 days of your life, 3 days of your business. You will get ROI quickly, and you'll understand what this all means. and let us solve for you the number one problem that entrepreneurs have. And actually, I'm going to, do I have time for a tangent?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
we're doing good. You're talking fast, so it's good.
The speed of my tongue can be a little bit much at times. But here's the deal: is that many people listening to this, many people at home struggling with their business model, trying to break, 6 figures and all the rest of it. Lots and lots of folks think I have a business model issue. What I'm selling isn't right. I'm not attracting the right people. And by the way, sometimes that's true. But I got to tell you this, in terms of doing this work now, let's call it including the other things for about 8 years. I'll tell you what I know to be true for lots and lots and lots of folks. Your business model, in terms of what you provide, what its price point is, how you serve your client, all those, that's totally fine. Your issue is you do not have enough qualified leads. You are not in enough conversations with people who care about the problem that you solve. And for the most part, if we can simply get you in, good God, a conversation a day would very likely transform most of the people who are under $100,000 a year. Just a conversation a day. And to put that in perspective, I literally was coaching one of my clients in the JV Mastery Program today. It's like, and you got to have this, you got to just for perspective. It's like, she's a little bit concerned that in the last 48 hours, she only has 492 new leads.
Oh, only.
She was hoping it was going to be a little higher. And it's like, well, I understand hoping it's going to be a little bit higher. But if we serve those 500 people that showed up in 48 hours, you're going to be okay. You're totally going to be okay. But that's the kind of, if we could just solve your appropriate lead acquisition piece. So that's the number one problem that most entrepreneurs have, that they don't actually truly, really genuinely acknowledge. They do a bunch of, I'm going to call it ad hoc silly things of throw money at ads, sponsor some random thing that doesn't really make sense. They do all of this rearranging deck chairs. But let's just secure a steady stream of perfectly qualified leads. It doesn't cost you anything. But let's do that first. Then let's talk about your business model. By the way, the back end, which is the next piece that entrepreneurs, if we can solve that part, then sometimes it's inconsistent cash flow. Lots of businesses go out of business, not because they're not making money, but because they can't meet their short-term obligations. So the next piece that we do is when we get great JV partners, the upstream folks, they send us clients for us to sell. We sell them and we reward them with money. Our downstream partners, we send them clients and they send us money. So what happens is on the back end, this up and down revenue roller coaster gets a whole bunch smoother and easier because we have this thing called consistent recurring passive income. And by the way, all money that comes from downstream partners is pure profit. It goes to the bottom line. You don't have fixed costs attached to it. You don't have variable costs attached to it. It is quite literally found money from serving and supporting our clients better. And that is the whole point of JVology Live. My tangent's over.
Yeah, but that was a good tangent. And I know my world has been all on networking for 18 years. But I also know that we don't want to network and spend our time doing things that don't get us results. I like the rearranging deck chairs visual. And so for me, I know that was really good, especially during a storm, right? And we're all in a storm right now. So for me, I have met so many great people in this community, and I don't think anybody wants to spend 3 days sitting in front of a computer. However, the first time I went to JVology, it was in a physical location, and I met great people, but it's so much easier now to go to these events and be able to get plugged into the type of people that get it as well. So other events, you go, you meet people and they're pitching you their stuff, and you don't even know how to approach them because it's not necessarily the right fit. But at JVology, it's a bunch of people that get this whole system. So the relationships you make are going to create results for you.
Well, and let's actually talk about that for a couple of, because you brought up like 5 great points. Number one is this. I get you might be zoomed out. I understand. I get it. But let's be clear about this. In the old days, to come to JVology Live, you spent basically $500 on a ticket and probably $1,500 on a plane ride and a plane ride in a hotel. That it was on the low end, right?
Right. Instead of 3 days, it was 5 days that I basically unplugged myself from my business.
Exactly. So these days, number one, the early bird ticket price changes on the 28th. So I want to just be really clear about this. So this airs after that, right?
Yes, it does. June 2nd,
Okay,
you'll be.
June 2nd. So the tickets will be like $497 for regular and 7 something or other for VIP. And by the way, that is a ridiculous bargain, to be perfectly clear. Now, here's the part that I want you to understand, though, is that in the model, when we changed from, because of COVID, in person to online, I was actually kind of freaked out about it, Christy. Like, it was like, oh my goodness, are
Yeah, you
people
and
gonna
everybody
get,
else.
yeah, are people going to get the connections, and are people going to be able to really meet one another? Are people going to have the depth of understanding what's going on? Can we really build the relationships that we want to build? And here's what we discovered: the online model is actually stronger, because if you think about it, usually you're at a table, there's 6 to 8 people at a table. Most people are a little bit socially conscious, let's say, and it's like, great, I meet a couple of people and it's like, ooh, I feel comfortable with them, I think they're upstream, downstream, we're going to go for lunch, and and then what happens is that you end up with this I'm going to call it small or narrow click, which, by the way, can have some great depth and beauty to it, but it doesn't give you the reach of the 100 people in the room. Online, what happens is that we keep moving you around in terms of your invitations. You meet a much broader range of people. People seem to be more sort of comfortable with that process. There's less sort of social anxiety and those sorts of things. And we can reach out and connect. We can send a quick Facebook message. We can actually send a calendar link. We can do all those sorts of things. Like, I had a buddy of mine, Mustafa, in the last JVology Live on day 2 morning. He texts me and he goes, it's like, brother, this is absolutely exceptional. He goes, I'm not sure that I can attend the rest of it because I already have 37 meetings booked.
I know.
So,
I plan my next week very, very light because of that.
As people should. So here's the thing: the online version, number one, you save your travel, you save your hotel, you save all of those pieces. You're going to pay for the event, which we are going to deliver to you 100 plus potential partners. And then you, in the very structure of it, get to practice your invitation. And here's the thing: you know how sometimes at live events you get cornered by somebody pitching their crap without agreement?
Yeah.
So we have a very clear grounding and rule, which is we are here having peer-to-peer conversations, not retail conversations. This is not the spot for a retail conversation. You can have a retail conversation if the person you're talking to asks for it, saying, it's like, Christy, can you tell me more about how you publish books? Because my wife might be really interested in that process. So if I ask, you bring on the retail. But the ground rule there is we don't have retail conversations unless somebody requests it. What we're having is peer-to-peer conversations, which is we're having a business opportunity conversation about becoming JV partners. And that's what we talk about. And just that one piece is one of the things that makes our event, in my humble opinion, which happens to be right.
Yeah, of course.
It makes our event the best in the space, because other places make space for the retail BS. And it's like, I'm not here for a retail conversation. I'm here for a peer-to-peer conversation.
It's ship captains talking to each other.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, totally get it. Yeah. Great. Okay. So you said you had a couple points. Was that your last point? I know
That's it.
Okay, good. Perfect. All right. So thank you so much, Jay. This was amazing. I know I took a bunch of notes already, but I know it's not over, because you actually, in addition to inviting people to the next event, you have a free gift that you want to share with the audience. And if you want to tell a little bit about what that is.
It is one of my faves. My faves. And it is called Escape the Marginal Success Trap. Now, without giving it all away, here's the long and the short of it. Excuse me. Most people's businesses work, but not really. What I mean by that is, it works well enough that we have clients. It works well enough that we have receivables. It works well enough that we've got something to do. But it doesn't work well enough that we get to send our kids to the private school that we want, that we get to drive the car that we want, that we get to holiday where we want, that we get to have the healthcare that we want, that we get to have the time off that we want. So what happens is that most businesses get to this spot called the marginal success trap. It's working too well for us to stop, and not well enough for us to be free. Now, here's the truth of the matter. This is the intersection of two processes in terms of the inputs of our business and the outputs of our business. And there's a brief training, I think it's like 9 minutes long, that demonstrates the stages and helps you to identify the stages. And then there's basically a five video / question process that will do 2 things. Number one, it's going to perfectly clearly help you assess where you really at in the process. More important than that, It's going to outline what is necessary to break free in the process, because that is what I want for every single person. It's the driving force of JVology Live, is that I want you to have a beautiful experience. It's the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit. The profit is very, very important. So you get the life that you deserve and desire, because none of us should be putting our ass on the line, risking creating our own way in the world to struggle. That is not how this is supposed to work. So anyway, this gift will help you see exactly where you're at, how you got there, and give you a direct pathway to get free, which you damn well deserve. So here's the thing, and I want to just say this as clear as I can. Lots of people is like, hey, download my 7-thing checklist because then I've got your email address. I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. Don't care about your email address. I really, really don't. If you're going to do this, opt in and do the actual little mini course, and it will transform how you think about your business. But don't say I'm going to and don't do it. Like, that is just, that's a great way to stay trapped. So really, really do it. And I really, really want you to get the value of it. So anyway, this is more than getting a PDF that's going to sit in your download folder or doing nothing. This will change how you think about your business. And I really, 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 really want you to do it.
Yeah. And you are a master trainer. That's one of the things I really admire about you. You have a really great way of setting a goal for your audience or your people that you're training, trying to teach, and being able to communicate in a way that actually makes sense. Not everybody has that gift, and you really do. So I'm sure it has something to do with your 15 years as a personal best seminar creator.
Yes. You know what it is? It's our facilitator training. We run and again, Canadian humility, I believe we run one of the best facilitator training programs in the universe. And I say that because lots of people who are other facilitators come to ours and go, oh my God, I thought I was an 8 out of 10 and I discovered I'm a 3, but I know what to do. It is our magic trick for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, thank you, Jay, so much for being a guest on our podcast. I am excited for my audience to be able to learn from you, be inspired from you, and hopefully connect into your community.
That would be absolutely awesome. I look forward to it. And thank you for having me again, Chrissy. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And so thanks everybody for joining us. If you learned anything today, I believe the best way for us to learn is to also teach. So share a couple of the tips you learned with Jay, with the people you know. And by all means, take advantage of his free gift. I don't know how long the link will be available, but make sure you grab it while you can. Go through the process, and we will see you on the next show. So until then, have a prosperous day.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.